This is ABC of News bringing you the latest in world politics. How a 50% tariff on India changes everything. Winners, losers, and what's next. The game-changing moment. On August 6, 2025, President Trump dropped a trade bombshell that's reshaping global commerce forever. A staggering 50% tariff on Indian goods, the highest ever imposed on a major trading partner. This isn't just another trade spat, it's a seismic shift that's creating winners, losers, and completely changing the rules of international business. Within hours, supply chains worth billions began scrambling. Consumers started bracing the price shocks. And two of the world's largest economies found themselves in an unprecedented trade war. But here's the twist. The fight isn't really about trade. It's about oil, geopolitics, and high-stakes game of economic chess. The spark that lit the fire. Why 50% tariff? The Russian connection. Trump's reasoning is crystal clear. India's continued purchases of Russian oil are undermining US sanctions and geopolitical objectives. The numbers are staggering. India's Russian oil addiction. India accounts for 38% of Russia's crude exports, importing 2.08 million barrels per day in June 2025, which is an 11-month record. India imported $52.73 billion worth of Russian crude in 2024. From January to June 2025, India has imported 1.75 million barrels per day, which is an increase of 1% over the previous year. The escalation timeline. 25% tariff was announced by Trump and implemented immediately on August 6, 2025. An additional 25% tariff to take effect later in August 2025. With this, the total impact of tariff will be 50%, making India face the highest rate globally. This isn't about trade. Trump is actually using economic weapons to force India's hands on Russia. The losers. Who gets crushed? The American consumers are the hidden victims. The shocking truth. Multiple economic analyses show varying impacts, with the tax foundation estimating Trump's tariff amount to an average tax increase by nearly $1,300 per US household in 2025. While the Center for American Progress projects cost could reach $5,200 annually, and Al Jazeera reports estimates of $4,000 per year, Americans will pay the price literally. The real-world price shocks. Healthcare catastrophe. The wholesale price of generic blood pressure medication is around $12 before tariffs, whereas after 50% tariff, the wholesale price would jump to $18. With this, retail price would explode from $25 to between $37 and $40. Who pays for this extra cost? It's the American patients and the insurance companies who have to bear 100% of the extra cost. Now the fashion price explosion. The wholesale price of Indian cotton shirts is $8 before tariff. But after 50% tariff, the wholesale price would rise to $12. As a result, retail price jumps from $25 to between $35 and $40. As a result, the impact would be 40 to 50% higher clothing costs for American families. Next is the tech hardware shock. Wholesale price of computer components, which is $100 before tariffs, would shoot up to $150 after 50% tariff. As a result, all tech products would significantly become more expensive and American families have to bear this extra cost. For the Indian economy, it would be an export nightmare. India's $434 billion merchandise export engine faces catastrophic disruption across key sectors. For the textile and the apparel industry, previous tariffs were between 5% to 15%. But after the 50% tariff, it would shoot up to between 55 to 65%. Next is the pharmaceutical sector. Earlier, tariff on generic medicine was between 0 to 10%. But after the 50% tariff, prices would rise between 50 to 60%. As a result, the Indian pharma companies would end up losing massive US market share. Earlier, the tariff was between 0 to 25% on IT hardware. But after the 50% tariff, prices would rise between 50 to 75%. As a result, there would be major disruption in India's tech export boom. In case of gems and jewelry, previous tariff was between 0 to 20%. But after the 50% tariff, the new reality would be between 50% to 70% total tariffs. And as a result, luxury exports would become uncompetitive. There would be some specific companies that would be under fire. Indian IT companies would be hit hard. Major IT companies saw immediate market impact when tariff news broke. Tata Consultancy Services TCS stock was down by 27.7% over the year. Market cap of 10.96 lakh crore was under pressure. Infosys market cap fell to 5.92 lakh crore, down 21.8% annually as US demand concerns mount. HCL Technologies, Tech Mahindra and LTI Mindtree all dropped 2% immediately after tariff announcements. Now the Indian pharmaceutical companies. Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, market cap of rupees 1.05 lakh crore, down 7.85% in 1 year, faces massive US market access issues. The generic drug manufacturers across India is bracing for complete US market restructuring. Regional impact within India. The IT hub in Bengaluru, Karnataka is facing security concerns for 4 million tech workers. Pharmaceutical manufacturing states like Andhra Pradesh and Telangana are seeing investment slow down. Textile and apparel exporters in Tamil Nadu are considering production cuts. The diamond and jewellery industries in Gujarat are experiencing order cancellations. Ultimately, who are the winners? Who benefits from this chaos? It is the alternative suppliers who hit the jackpot. This is Vietnam's golden opportunity. The Vietnamese textile and apparel manufacturers are already seeing increased US orders. Technology companies are eyeing Vietnam as the new manufacturing hub. Lower labor costs plus no tariffs is equal to massive competitive advantage. Bangladesh's textile boom. Ready-made garment industry of Bangladesh is experiencing surge in US demand. The Bangladesh government is actively courting displaced Indian businesses. Mexico's manufacturing renaissance. USMCA trade agreement with Mexico makes Mexican goods trade free. Mexico's electronics and automotive parts manufacturers are seeing increased orders. Mexico's geographic proximity to US provides logistic advantages. China's unexpected win. Despite ongoing US-China tensions, some Indian businesses may flow to Chinese manufacturers. Chinese refined petroleum product market sees opportunities as India's refining capacity gets sidelined. Domestic US industries. American pharmaceutical companies will face reduced competition from Indian generics. They have the opportunity to increase domestic production. They will have higher profit margins on previously price competitive drugs. US textile manufacturers. This is the first major protection of US textile manufacturers from low-cost imports in decades. Potential for domestic production revival of US textile manufacturers. Job creation opportunities in textile producing states of the United States. Stock market winners. US companies like Pfizer, Merck, Johnson & Johnson will face reduced generic competition, boosting their profit margins. American apparel companies like Gap, Nike are seeing opportunities in domestic sourcing. US Steel manufacturing ETFs will be benefiting from America First policies. Vietnamese stock surge. Vietnamese conglomerates like Vingroup, Vinfast are seeing increased foreign investment. Textile stocks on Ho Chi Minh Exchange is up by 15 to 20% since tariff announcement. Expert reactions, what professionals have to say. Bloomberg analysis on Trump's 50% India tariff threats represent a complete upending on decades of US policy, fundamentally changing the strategic partnership built over 20 years. CNBC economic commentary is that Washington may be mistaking India's complacence on America's leverage, suggesting Trump may have miscalculated India's willingness to bend on the Russia issue. CNN Business has warned that President Donald Trump's relentless use of tariffs to coerce foreign counterparts into favorable deals is about to run headlong into the limits of geographical reality. The Indian stock market confidence. The National Stock Exchange of India CEO has the perspective that India's economy is now in a better position than China to weather tariffs. showing confidence despite the trillion-dollar losses in the stock market from its peak. Strategic analysis from Chatham House has to say that recent friction has pushed New Delhi to reaffirm its strategic autonomy and engage with China and Russia, but the US is still India's key long partner. Industry Association responses. The Indian pharmaceutical industry bodies have warned of potential generic drug shortages in the US market, with patients bearing the cost burden. NASSCOM, National Association of Software and Service Companies, has expressed concern about demand of IT services from the US being affected, which dented sentiment across Indian IT stocks. The historical context and how we got here. Trump's previous India comments are Tariff King, a big abuser of tariffs, a very high tariff nation. US President Donald Trump has made it clear repeatedly over the years what he thinks of India's protectionist trade policies. India's strategic response. Diplomatic counterattack. India slammed the tariff as unjustified and highlighted what it sees as Western hypocrisy, pointing out that the European Union and US were also engaging in trade with Moscow. The economic chess moves. New Delhi officials are weighing trade concessions that they can offer to the US. Potential pause on US arms purchases worth billions, though India denies this. Modi may be able to afford to wait, as any breakthrough between Russia and Ukraine could remove the US reason of tariffs. The oil strategy continues. Despite pressure, India shows no signs of reducing Russian oil purchases. Industry sources note that if India stopped buying Russian oil today, global crude prices may spike, giving India significant leverage. International Support Network. Russia defended India, with Kremlin press secretary Dmitry Peskov stating that sovereign countries should have the right to choose their own trade partners. India's refined oil re-export business. India has become a major refiner of Russian crude, then re-export refined products globally. This allows India to benefit from discounted Russian oil, add value through refining, maintain energy security, and continue profiting despite tariffs. Counter-tariff measures are being considered. There could be potential Indian retaliation, which would include 100% tariff on US agricultural products like soybeans, almonds, and apples. Restrictions on US tech companies operating in India. Cancellation of pending defense contracts worth $10+ billion. And shift from US dollar to rupee trading with key partners. Strategic diversification. Experts have to say that India won't give up on Russia or its strategic autonomy, even as areas of friction with the US grow. This includes strengthening of partnership with the European Union, Japan, and Australia, expanding South-South trade relationships, building alternative payment systems bypassing US financial infrastructure. What's next? There are 3 detailed scenarios. The first scenario is the standoff continues, which has a 40% probability. The timeline could be 12 to 24 months of sustained tension. India maintains Russian oil purchases, citing energy security. US keeps 50% tariffs indefinitely, possibly expanding to services. Trade gradually shifts to alternative suppliers over 18 months. Both economies suffer medium-term damage. US consumers pay more and Indian exports decline by 30 to 40%. The key indicator to watch is India's oil import data monthly. If Russian imports stay above 1.5 million barrels per day, then standoff continues. The second scenario is diplomatic resolution, having 35% probability. The timeline could be 3 to 6 months of intensive negotiations. India negotiates alternative trade concessions, possibly increasing US agricultural imports. Gradual tariff reduction from 50% to 25% to 10% over 6 months period in exchange of 30% reduction in Russian oil dependency. Face saving compromise. India shifts some oil purchases to Middle East suppliers while maintaining strategic autonomy. The key indicator to watch will be official diplomatic meetings and Modi-Trump phone calls frequency. The third scenario is geopolitical game changer, which has a 25% probability. And this could happen suddenly with major geopolitical shift. Russia-Ukraine conflict resolution removes Trump's primary justification. Rapid tariff removal within 30 to 60 days as geopolitical pressure disappears. India-US trade relationship rebounds stronger with new defense and technology agreements. Focus shifts from China containment strategy with India as key partner. The key indicator to watch is any peace talks or ceasefire developments in Russia-Ukraine conflict. There could be a wildcard scenario, which would be India's trump card, and this has a probability of 5%. India threatens to align closer with China economically, BRICS plus partnership deepening with alternative trade currencies, complete restructuring of global south trade away from US dollar. This would force immediate US policy recalculation. The market reality check. The surprising truth is that India's stock market showed little sign of panic a day after the tariff announcement, suggesting markets view this as potentially temporary. There are global implications where other countries are watching to see if tariff threats become Trump's primary foreign policy tool. Supply chain diversification accelerating globally. Energy markets remain volatile as India-Russia oil trade continues. The bottom line is everything changes. This 50% tariff isn't just about trade. It's reshaping global supply chains, forcing consumers to pay more, creating opportunities for alternative suppliers, and testing the limits of economic diplomacy. The American families will have to pay higher prices ultimately. Indian exporters will lose market share, and countries like Vietnam and Bangladesh will gain unprecedented opportunities. The ultimate winner might be whosoever adapts faster to this new reality. The real question is, will this be a temporary trade war, or is this the beginning of a permanent reshuffling of global commerce? The answer lies not in trade statistics, but in the geopolitical chess match between Washington, New Delhi, and Moscow.